So here's just a quick overview, a quick summary, quick rundown of the exemptions that were hidden, not hidden in Prop 37, just not revealed by the hysterical controlled opposition people who channeled the opposition to GMOs into this false thing. That nobody even read Prop 37. It didn't pass. Prop 37 didn't pass, and now you see the controlled opposition starting to spin it like it didn't pass because, you know, they're trying to spin it like oh no, now we don't have labels, you know. But first of all, as I just said, labeling is the wrong avenue. That's what control opposition does. It channels things into a dead end. Labeling is a dead end. Labeling won't work because when you have two different standards of food, labeling is predicated on the idea that you're going to have food for the smart people and then the food for the dumb people, and the smart people will just avoid the poison because they're smart enough to read the labels, and let the dumb people eat the so-called normal food. And they even spin it that way. They even use those labels. They call the GMO foods conventional. They've labeled them that way, and they've labeled the non-GMOs as non-conventional. See, they use Orwellian, and that's also something they do with the language, to manipulate the language to control people. So, bottom line is labeling is the wrong solution. It won't work. The real solution is to you should only have one food standard, which is that's the original mission of the FDA, is any food that's in the marketplace should comply to a single standard, being either it's safe or it's not. Any food that's not safe has no business being in the food supply. But that's gone now. We don't have safe food in the food supply. And so let me just get back to Prop 37, and here's just a quick summary. You can read it yourself. None of the people who supported it read it or found out who backed it. But here's why labeling is a dead end and it wouldn't work. So they're channeling you into a dead end. They're taking the opposition for a ride. It's basically and it's just going to keep going because they've decided that GMOs belong in the food supply for various reasons. And you can just look at the people who produce GMOs hoarding non-GMO foods for themselves. What does that tell you? Okay, so here's just a few of the exemptions, meaning you're led to believe that you have something that's going to protect you via labeling. Well, that's just more deception, because you're lulled into believing that the labels are going to protect you when they really don't, because of the exemptions. Here's just a few of the exemptions. There's 9 exemptions outlined in Prop 37. So now that it didn't pass, you know that the next time you're even going to get screwed even worse. They're even going to force a more pathetic compromise on the people. Because now you're so desperate for labeling that you'll give. See, they set the two sides ahead of time. So now you're going to be so desperate for anything, a token labeling, that you'll settle for a pathetic excuse for something that's going to protect you. But it's just going to lull you into a false sense of security, because they're targeting the yuppies. The yuppies are stupid and pathetic. Okay? So here's just some of the there's 9 exemptions, meaning these are foods that are going to be GMO and allowed into the food supply non-labeled under Prop 37. So how is it a thing that labels GMOs if it's allowing GMOs to be unlabeled into the food supply. That's how insane this is. There's 9 of them, and here's just a few of the most glaring ones. Animal products that are fed and injected with GMOs are exempt. That means you'll be stupidly lulled into thinking, because you're a stupid yuppie piece of scum, that you're not eating GMOs when you're buying animal products that have been pumped full of GMOs, and that's not labeled. That's exemption A, animal products. The other big one is restaurant food, and that includes all institutional food. The wording is things that are packaged for immediate consumption. All restaurants, all schools, all cafeterias, institutions, hospitals, all that food. And it also includes fast food, convenience store type food that's packaged to be sold right on the spot, like hot dogs or whatever. Any of that food, all the ingredients, that's all packaged and sent to restaurants under Prop 37 will all be GMO and not labeled. So it'll just be a dumping of massive quantities of GMO food into the food supply, not labeled. And that's under the scheme that was supposed to label GMOs. So the restaurant, with the restaurant exemption, under Prop 37, which failed, and you thought that was the labeling of GMOs, under that, all restaurants would have been totally GMO saturated without labels. That was under Prop 37. And I even I even looked at the controlled opposition was trying to explain that away by saying that you can't label something because it's sold in a restaurant, and so they expect people to buy that, to just say, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just eat the GMOs and we'll just pretend that we're not, because it's in a restaurant. Saying that you couldn't label restaurant food because it's put on a plate and there's no way to put a label on the plate. That's how stupid the controlled opposition is. First of all, you could label the menus, and second of all, they cover up the fact that not only is the food not labeled when it gets to you, the person who's in the restaurant eating it, not only do you not see that it's GMO, but the packaging through the entire chain, food chain, from the producer is not required to be labeled if it's packaged to be sold for immediate human consumption, meaning anything that's destined to be sold in a restaurant or a cafeteria or a school or a hospital. All that type of food, because it's packaged differently. A restaurant, McDonald's, okay, in your town you have a McDonald's and you have a shopping mall and you have a supermarket. Are you really dumb enough to think that McDonald's goes to the supermarket to buy the food that they sell you? No. All their food is GMO. And then all the animal products are GMO and not labeled, because they're all fed and pumped full and injected with GMO stuff, feed. So it just goes on and on. And Prop 37 was just a total scam.